Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today for Broadband Deployment News. The FCC is making available a whole big swath of spectrum for 5G, new mid-band spectrum, so I'll be talking about that today. Be right back. Thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. And 5G is something that is quickly expanding where we have broadband service, because with 5G service in the mid-band spectrum and certainly in millimeter wave spectrum, you can get well over 100 megabits per second service, and 5G being wireless, and especially with a lot of the larger operators like, really the large operators like T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, rolling that out. We're seeing large swaths of the country being covered pretty quickly in areas that they are deploying this. Now there's been limited spectrum, but we've improved that over the last couple of years. We had CBRS come out, which is mid-band spectrum. We had C-band spectrum come out, and now the FCC is going to be doing some additional auctions for 2.5 gigahertz, which is a little bit lower than those other two, but that's actually the spectrum that T-Mobile is using right now. They've got a lot of that they are currently leasing and would like to own. So I thought there was a good summary of this on the telecompetitor site right here, this story. So I was going to read through this, then I'm going to show you just the basically table of contents on the report and order, the public notice on this spectrum from the FCC. Then I also want to show you the map. There's a coverage map that the FCC has out. So first, a summary here from this article in Telecompetitor. So here you see FCC said yesterday, this was actually 2 days ago, that the auction of vacant spectrum in the 2.5 gigahertz band, designated as Auction 108, will begin on July 29th. So that's the date that they'll actually be doing the bids. The auction will include approximately 30,000 licenses to be issued by county, which is a little bit different, with up to 3 licenses per county. T-Mobile holds licenses to the spectrum in many areas and is likely to bid in the auction to expand those holdings. Now, it turns out most of the licenses that they hold, they're actually leasing right now, because at one point the FCC did not allow those licenses to be sold. That's now different. So T-Mobile's been leasing these mostly from educational institutions, universities, religious organizations. So they've been leasing that, and they're trying, I think, to acquire that. Of course, there's some others that are trying to acquire that before T-Mobile can buy it, but that's the state of T-Mobile right now, and they're going to be definitely participating in this because they want to expand their holdings, because this will fill in a lot of gaps that they have. The ability to obtain a license for a single county should be attractive to smaller entities, such as wireless internet service providers, WISPs. Some auctions use larger, partially economic areas called PEAs, effectively precluding smaller bidders from participating because they cannot afford and do not need entire PEAs. So sometimes what happens there is, I think this was the case in CBRS, is that somebody could buy the license for a whole PEA, and then they could lease that to somebody else that just needed a portion of it. So that's the way that was being handled. But in this case, they're using smaller, believe it or not, counties are smaller blocks than these PEAs. Less attractive to the smaller providers is the FCC's plan to use an ascending clock format for the auction. That would make it easier for a company like T-Mobile to target these bids and to average bids across the country. And it's not just these smaller folks that are not liking that. It's people like AT&T and Verizon that know that T-Mobile has a lot of information about these leases that are already in place, because they are the ones leasing them. Again, they are the ones that have most of the spectrum, that they either own parts of it or leasing large parts of it. So they have a kind of a heads up on information about what is out there. And this will help them in that case. What they wanted to do was sealed bids, and that's not going to happen here. So smaller providers will have the opportunity to gain bidding credits in the auction, which is nice if you're smaller. You can see what those are here. Those credits, there's a 15% rural service provider credit for companies that have fewer than 250,000 combined wireless, wireline, and broadband and cable subscribers that serve predominantly rural areas. That's a pretty good size provider. Defined as counties with a population density of 100 or fewer people per square mile. So they're really targeting these credits at rural areas. A 15% small business credit. So this would also apply to service providers that are small or smaller, considered smaller. Small business credit for companies with average annual gross revenues that do not exceed $55 million. for the preceding 5 years. And then there's a very small business credit, 25% if you were in that category, with average annual gross income revenues that do not exceed 20 million for the preceding 5 years. Companies cannot combine those credits, so you can't use the rural service provider credit and combine that with a very small business credit. You use one or the other, and obviously if you're a very small business, you'd want to do that as opposed to the rural service provider credit. Here are the key dates for the auction. So on April 27th, a short form application filing window opens. So everybody that's going to participate in this needs to fill in a short form application, which is going to gather information to make sure that whoever is applying for this is technically able to do this. They have the experience, they are financially, there's some basic financial information of who they are, that kind of thing. There's a deadline on that, so the short form applications have to be in on May 10th. And you have to indicate who or what areas you want to bid on, but you're not committing to that at that point. So you want to make sure that any areas you think you want to bid on, you have on your short form application. You don't have to bid on that or really any of them at that point. But if you put in your short form application and then later decide you want to bid on an area and it's not on your application, then you can't bid on that. So you'd want to make sure that you get everything on your short form application. Upfront payments are due on June 23rd. So these have upfront payments, and what they're trying to do there is make sure that these are serious people, so that when you put in your short form application before, and actually, well, I guess it's after the application deadline, but when you put in your short form application, then later you have to pay an upfront payment before the bidding even begins. That's refundable. It's like a deposit, but you need to put that payment in. And again, they're trying to make sure that the people that are going to be doing this are not wasting anybody's time, that these are folks that are really serious about this. There'll be a mock auction on June 26th through the 27th, and then bidding begins on July 29th. And there are 3 licenses potentially available in a county or of different sizes, so they show that here. This is from the FCC site. So you've got channel, they're calling it channel 1, that's 49.5 megahertz worth of spectrum right here. Then you've got channel 2, that's 50.5 megahertz of spectrum. And then you've got channel 3, which is not contiguous. So these are contiguous, which is nice. So you can get a larger band of spectrum if you're bidding in here. This is not contiguous. You've got this little slice here, and then you've got right here, and that adds up to 17.5 megahertz. That's in channel 3. This they have allocated, they say, for a broadband radio service. So that these yellow areas are not available. The FCC notes that the total number of licenses available may be adjusted slightly, as the Commission is still processing some applications for tribal licenses. So the FCC opened up earlier, I think it was maybe started in January, I can't remember the dates, but they opened up for tribal entities in rural areas to go in and kind of get in the door first. Kind of like when a store does a sale, they may let certain people in first, they come in and then they open it up to everybody else. Well, now the tribal license portion of things are closed down. They've submitted their applications, and now the rest of the world can bid on these areas. But there are still some tribal license applications that they probably have not yet put on the map, so to speak. So these numbers still may change, but all the applications are in. They're just reviewing those. So that's it for that. Then there is this. I was going to show this first, actually. So this is, I'm just going to show the table of contents on this because it's an 87-page document. So this is the public notice on this. Again, bidding scheduled to begin July 29th, 2022. So you can see here a lot of information. So if you're interested in this, you definitely want to look at this. I'll go ahead and link to the article I just had. I'll link to this. I'll link to the map that I'm going to show you. So applying to participate, and a lot of information about that, which you want to look through. Then you've got things like the small business credit, the rural service provider billing credit, caps on billing credits. Tribal lands also had a bidding credit, or have a bidding credit, probably had, maybe because maybe that's part's over. Preparing for bidding in auction 108, so a lot of good information there, what you need to do. It talks about the upfront payments. So the upfront payments, again, to make sure that people are serious, and the amount of that is basically, it's 0.3 cents times the megahertz of the spectrum that you're bidding on. So it would be like 0.3 cents times, let's say 50 megahertz if you're bidding on that channel. And then they call it megahertz dash pop, and the pop is not point of presence, is population. So you take that number and you multiply it by the population in that county, and that gives you a figure. So you might take, like I say, 0.3 cents times 50 megahertz times maybe 50,000 people in the county, and that might come up to $3,000, $5,000, somewhere in that range. And then that is your upfront payment that you have to make. And I'm going to show you here this on a spreadsheet, those areas and what that all works out to, or how that works out. So bidding procedures, clock 1 auction design. So this is a descending clock auction. So basically everybody's going to be bidding at the same time in every county in the United States, right? That's included here, and it seems to be every county in the United States. They're calling it a rural auction, but I see counties on here that are definitely not rural. So I guess the question is whether the county is on there, and whether there's spectrum. I don't know. We'll look at that in a minute. So again, a descending clock auction. Every county is bid on, or certainly every eligible area where there's spectrum is bid on at the same time, and then that continues to go down. So as you get, you'll have people. If there's just one person in there and they bid, and there's nobody else, then they're eventually going to be the winner. But if there's multiple bidders, that clock is going to keep ascending, and then the price is going to keep going up because people are going to be bidding that up, right? And then eventually, when there's just one person left, then that's done. And that's really when there's only one person left in every single county in the United States, or every area that is eligible. Once there's only one bidder left, then the auction is done. So it's just going to continue like that. And that's the way this has been done in the past on all these spectrum auctions. You can see there's sections on here on the acceptable bids, minimum opening bids, clock price increments, those kinds of things, post-auction procedures and whatnot. And then again, it's like an 87-page document. So I'll post this if you're interested. Now, I downloaded the spreadsheet that showed the counties. I'm going to make that a little bigger here. Let's see. Hold on a second. I had scrolled over here to Georgia because I was looking at a state that I'm familiar with. So you can see you've got some rural counties, but counties like Cherokee, this is like the 7th biggest county in Georgia. It's got 214,000 people in it. There are definitely some rural areas up in Cherokee. There's no doubt about that. But I know a lot of it's not. But then you got counties like Cobb. There's not too many. There's some rural areas in Cobb, but not really. That's, I think, the 4th biggest county in Georgia, 688,000 folks there. You've got Fulton County, which is where the city of Atlanta is. Now, it's a long county, covers a lot of territory, but most of it is not rural at all. You've got even the northern parts of Fulton County now are pretty well developed. So you got 920,000 people in Fulton County. And you can see here, subject to small market cap, and it's yes or no. And obviously Fulton County is a no. Gilmer County, with 28,000 population, is a yes. So you've got that information. And then you've got these upfront payments. So if you looked at the numbers that I was talking about, let's take again Cherokee here. So if you look at the numbers I was talking about, you would multiply. This is basically, these are both 50. So you take 50 megahertz, or you take 50 times the 0.3 cents to get about 15 cents. Yeah, it gets you 15 cents, and then you multiply that times this number, and that gives you approximately 30,000. Now they seem to round it down. I noticed. So something might be over 30, but under 40, and they round it down to 30. So it's not exactly that. Like if you look at, I was looking at a couple of counties here that were close. I don't know if I can find them. I don't remember where they were, but if you looked at a couple of counties that were quite a bit different in population, I noticed that one was just under, I think it was just under 20,000 in population, and the other one was just over 10,000 in population. They had the same upfront payment, so they seem to round that down. So you can see what your upfront payment would be here. And then the minimum bid is always twice that. So the minimum bid is 0.6 cents, basically based on these same numbers. So you can see that you got 1,000 and 2,000, 2,000 and 4,000, etc., 100,000 and 200,000. So you got minimum bids. So it looks again like every single county. I don't know for sure. I haven't looked at see if every county in Georgia is in here, but certainly if Fulton is in here, then I would say every single county is in here, because Fulton is the least rural county that we have in the state of Georgia. So does that mean that there are going to be is there available spectrum in all these areas? I don't know, but there is a map. You can go to that. I'll link to this where you can find this map. Got the United States here. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. So this is specifically for this auction 108 2.5 gigahertz band inventory. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit in the United States. Actually zoom out one. So there's the US. So you've got some layers here. So I can look at rural tribal applications. So these would be applications that are pending. And again, I believe it's possible that these are not all yet represented on the map because it did mention that things could change. Or maybe these are ones that are in and they're still being reviewed. I don't know. But these are the tribal locations that are basically taken. So you could see those. Then you've got your blocks. You've got one. What do we have? We've got counties available for auction 108. We've got block 1, 2, and 3. So these are your blocks of spectrum. So if I click, and there's not much difference when I click on these. So if I click that, you can see that's going to fill in the map here. And then I can click block 2. That's going to fill in pretty much the same areas. And block 3. Yeah, I think it's basically just darkening everything that we had already. So there's maybe a little variance in those. And I don't know what some of this is, why it seems like every single area is covered in certain places and then not some in others. Trying to move this over. Not very responsive on this laptop. Yeah, it's down here spinning. So I noticed, yeah, we'll see if it moves here in a minute. I noticed like in the Atlanta area, again, Fulton County is showing all blue, which to me is just telling me that there is spectrum available that can be looked at there. There's a few areas in Georgia that have no color in them, such as some of these areas right here that you see in Texas. I can't really see my states there, state lines, but I know this is Texas here. Yeah, I seem to be kind of, oh, there we go. We can move it now. So I'm going to move in here, see if this will fill in. There we go. Let's see if I can zoom in. This was working way better earlier, maybe because I'm streaming at the same time. There we go. All right. See if I can move it again. It's really slow. Here we go. All right, so this, I'm going to zoom in one more time. If it will do that, here they are. Slide it over if I can. So this county right here, you see this portion and then this long portion down here. This is all Fulton County. So the city of Atlanta is somewhere, in this part of the county. No, wait a minute, I'm sorry, this is south. So the city of Atlanta is somewhere down in here. This is northern Fulton County. This is Cherokee County that I was talking about, I believe that's Cobb County there. So these are all what are called Metro Atlanta, all of these. And there's Metro Atlanta over here too, so I don't understand that. So you got definitely the city of Atlanta here, then you've got Metro Atlanta surrounding it, including some of these counties here, but these counties are not marked at all for some reason. I can see here you've got National Forest, you've got Macon. This is a fairly big city. I don't know if it's the second largest city in Georgia, but it's a pretty good sized city here. We've got Atlanta and we've got Macon. There is Warner Air Force Base down here. Warner Robins Air Force Base, so maybe that's something, but I don't know why all these areas are blank. Now you can plug in what we have here. We've got block 1 county area by channels encumbered. So maybe this is telling me where there's something that's not available. All I know is it puts pretty colors up on the map. So I'm going to click that, and I've got red. Actually, it was pulling up dots earlier. Let me uncheck that. I'm going to uncheck these things. Go ahead and do this. Block 1. Yeah, pulling up dots. And then I've got, I don't know what these things mean. I've got encumbered 9 channels max. Then I've got 4 channels, 1 channel. So maybe it's saying all 9 channels are gone in this area. In these areas, I've got a fewer number of channels that are, I don't know what that means. And if I take that off, put block 2, I get similar kinds of stuff. Again, more pretty colors. I get block 3. That's mostly red. I don't see any of these green or other colors. So that's block 3. And again, block 3 is the one that's a 17.5 megahertz. That's not contiguous. So if I zoom out here, I'll take that off and zoom out on Georgia and Alabama, let's say, and I put block 1 back on. Again, I've got a lot of areas that, again, this is kind of the metro Atlanta area. So maybe that's saying that if you look, if you look at this, you're seeing that there's not really anything available, and you need to be looking in other spots, for that particular block of spectrum. And then if I put these other blocks in, see some blue there that popped in. If I put this 17.5 gigahertz, that didn't make much difference. So maybe what this is saying is the areas that are available are those that are not covered by these areas. So that these licenses are, there's incumbents here. Maybe that's what encumbered means, but maybe there's incumbents that are in these areas. So if I, again, add my blue back on here, you can see there's quite a bit of difference, but you can still see you've got your counties here that all seem to be available. I don't even see any open spaces now. And then you've got your encumbered areas. So I don't know what all that means, but I'm sure this will come out. Again, there is the date on the short form, let's say upfront payments. So there's a mock auction on July 26th and 27th, and then I guess so that you don't forget what you learned, there's bidding begins on July 29th. But prior to all that, the FCC is going to come out with some educational resources. I wouldn't be surprised if they do at least one webinar, but they'll also have other resources that will explain further this information, including, I'm sure, what how to look on the map and what it is that you're looking at. So I would imagine those things would be covered. So just be looking for information on that. As I see that things come out, in other words, as I see a date for training on that, I'll go ahead and pop on a quick broadcast and announce that. So again, this is all very important as far as 5G and broadband deployment goes. It helps us get more 5G spectrum out there, and 5G is something that's going to be ubiquitous, I think, everywhere. Even if you've got fiber in your home, there's going to be 5G out there in areas that are going to be helping us do other things mobilely, when you're not in your home as well. 5G, of course, is also, though, spectrum that can be definitely used for a fixed wireless service in your home, and that's something that right now T-Mobile and Verizon are definitely doing quite a bit of, and AT&T as well. So both Verizon and AT&T using C-band spectrum, T-Mobile, I think, using some CBRS, but then also a lot of this 2.5 gigahertz, and they're going to be bidding on a lot more of that to try to get their nationwide 5G coverage out to as many people as they can. So I see, hang on one second here. So Conway fan 98, is Carroll County, Virginia on the list? I think everybody's on the list, but let's just take a quick look. Virginia, let me scroll on down here. Actually, see if this will work. Carroll County. There's Arkansas. There's 32 of them. Let me just scroll down to Virginia. It'll be easier. VA. There we go. Well, how about that? No, wait a minute. What am I looking at here? Why is that not alphabetical? Bristol, Virginia. Let me go back up here. Not sure why that was out of place. Yep, there's Carroll. So you see, when you look at the list, you'll see that it's always listed 3 times, and then there's the 3 different categories: block 1, 2, and 3. And looking at Carroll County, it's fairly rural, so it is subject to the small market cap. 28 looks like 30,000 or so population there, and minimum bids are, because of that, minimum bids are fairly low. So yeah, it's there. And let's take a quick look. Actually, I don't know what Carroll County is, but let's take a quick look at Virginia on the map. Wow, it's really a mess, isn't it? Okay, let's take this stuff off. So Virginia, there's Lynchburg. Roanoke. So I'll just go ahead again. I think if I put on these blocks, they're probably going to show everything. There's going to be a few blank spaces. Again, I don't know what those mean. So I'm going to put these on first. So again, you got, here's a blank space around Roanoke, which is around a city, I guess that makes it. But all this is covered in blue, so I'm not sure what that means. I'm going to put on the colored dots and see what we get. So again, if this is showing me what's actually covered, then maybe there's some areas in here that are available. I can't see exactly where that is. We got over here. This is a national forest here, Monongahela National Forest. So here's West Virginia right here. So it looks like the border. So yeah, it's on the list. What does that mean? I don't know yet. So if you pull up the map, maybe I'll post a link to where you can look at this map, and maybe you can dig in on that and see exactly where Carroll County is and what's involved there. So thanks for the question. And thanks for joining me, everybody. So hopefully this was helpful. Give me a like if you liked the video, and subscribe to our channel. Hit the subscribe button, click the little notification bell, and then you'll be notified when I'm live. So thanks for joining me. I'll see you tomorrow with broadband deployment news. Bye-bye.